It's 2025 and time for resolutions with great intentions. Will you resolve to begin new healthy habits? Will you be one of the 8% that follow through or the 92% that quit? I'm going to dive into this. Whatever the choice, the new year will have beginnings and endings, and I'm looking forward to the very first Youthful Older Yogi episode of 2025. So let's get started. Welcome to the Youthful Older Yogi podcast. I'm MJ Waddell, your yogi host and founder of Share Yoga. I've been practicing, teaching, and loving yoga for over 25 years. I'm an advocate of movement, creativity, and staying healthy in mind and body in the prime time of your life. It's never too late to start, and there's a lot of healthy years ahead. So let's start now. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Youthful Older Yogi. I'm MJ Waddell, the founder and creator of Share Yoga, and this is the first episode of 2025. So thanks for tuning in. I'm calling this episode, I think I'm calling it Beginning and Endings, and hopefully not quitting. So if you're listening or watching, we are a third of the way into January already, and that means we are past National Quitters Day, which is on January 10th. So I'm not here to judge or call out the quitters, but to understand why this time of year has so much hope, and then it can be such a downer when you quit something or it just doesn't turn out the way you would hope it turned out. So I went to Google, as I usually do, and then I found this website called nationaltoday.com, and on it was National Quitters Day and how it was established. So the timeline goes kind of like this. So in 1960, this plastic surgeon, his name was Dr. Maxwell Maltz, he published a book where he shows it requires a minimum of approximately 21 days for an old mental image to dissolve and form a new one. So that was kind of got my interest because it says dissolve a mental image. He didn't say habit. He said an image and form a new one. And he found it would take a patient 21 days to get used to their new face after plastic surgery. So that's what he's basing it off. He would maybe do a surgery on a nose, and that patient had been looking at their own image with their original nose for so long. And after the surgery, it would take that patient 21 days to actually get used to seeing their new image. And I thought that was really kind of cool. I think the name of the book or the website, which I will put in the show notes, it's called Psycho-Cybernetics. And then, okay, that's the first part of the timeline. In 1988, 28 years later, the University of Scranton published a study that shows 19% of people who make resolutions and stick with them for 2 years, they will reach their goals. 2 years. That's a long time. So I think when people make their resolutions or state their goals or desires on New Year's Eve, they're not thinking it's going to take me 2 years to get there. But that's the research, that's the study. And again, I will put that link in the website, 2 years. Then in 2009, Dr. Philippa Lally concludes a study that it takes an average of 66 days for a new behavior to become automatic. So a little over 2 months certainly is more appealing than 2 years. Even 2 months can seem like quite a stretch. I think maybe that's why people give up after 11 days. Now, moving on from 2009 and 2012, back to the University of Scranton, they published a study that predicts only 8% of Americans who make New Year's resolutions stick to them. So, are you part of the 8% or the 92%? So I was curious about when did New Year's resolutions actually begin? And I learned that the Romans began each year by making promises to the god Janus or Janus. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that God's name correctly. And he was the God of beginnings, the God of transitions, and the God of endings. So coincidentally, the month of January is named after him. And because it begins the year January, it's also my birth month, actually. If you're watching this, my birthday was January 9th, and I just turned 65. So January holds a special place for me. So typically, my New Year's resolutions were to eat more vegetables. I never succeeded. I wrote a blog about this, which you'll find in the links, and I think you'll find it pretty entertaining. But what I've learned is I've switched the word from resolutions to ambitions. I like ambitions. And so, what does any of this have to do with yoga? Quite a bit. So, samskara is a Sanskrit word that is a word for a mental and physiological imprint. And basically, it's a word for habits. It's what your habits are, what you do all the time. And these habits can be stored in your mind forever. They can be active or dormant, or they can be reinforced daily, right? Think of a habit. You brush your teeth daily. It's just a habit. Hopefully, you brush your teeth daily. So that Sanskrit word, to break it down, sam, S-A-M, it means well-planned or thought out. And kara is the action undertaken. So it's a well-planned out thought or action that you actually do. It's a habit. And I'm going to share with you one of my samskaras that I'm working on to dissolve. And it's a process, and it's an old continuous thought. It's the same thought, like a broken record thought. And my samskara, broken record, horrible thought is, I'll never have enough money. Okay. Now, I probably think about this. I'd say I'm down to maybe 3 or 4 times a day, where before I would just be engulfed in it, like thinking about it all the time. And every time I have that thought now about money, I recognize it. It's a samskara and a habit, and I'm very aware of it. And it's also because of how I was brought up in my circumstance and experience growing up. So this money thought, tends to lead me down and into this very dark story that goes like this. I should have more money than I have. I should work harder. If I had a degree, I'd be better off. I should look for a rich man. That's the old thought. I'm going to be living in my car, or worse, I'll die penniless. Okay. And there's more. It just goes on and on. You just go down this rabbit hole. So you might be laughing about it, but I bet you may have a similar samskara or a recurring thought. It's like just this groove, broken record groove. And you've had it for a long time, or ever since you can remember. I wanted to pop in and thank you for listening to the Youthful Older Yogi. I love bringing you great guests, education, and ways to stay youthful in mind and body. If you love the show and want to help me make it even better, please consider becoming a supporter. You get to choose how much and how often you give, and there's no commitment. And remember, I donate a portion of every dollar I receive to charity. For 2025, I've chosen United Nations World Food Program. Just click the support button in the show notes. And just as helpful is sharing the show with others. Thank you again so much for listening. And now let's get back to the podcast. So for 2025 episodes of the Youthful Older Yogi, I've been thinking about what new habits I wanted to start and dissolve away some of the older habits of my podcast. I wanted to, hopefully, it's always been my goal to inspire and to educate my listeners, you listening right now or watching. And so then my mind just exploded. Oh, there's so many things I could do. Should I highlight a pose? Should I highlight a Sanskrit word? I kind of already do that. Should I highlight a variation of a pose? Should I add in yoga philosophy? So just exploding with thoughts because yoga is such a vast subject. And so then I asked myself, well, what are my ambitions? What is it that I want to learn and share with you so we can learn together? So I settled on mudras. So a mudra is a seal. Typically they're done with your hands, hand seal. And I don't know much about them, but I'm really, really interested in them. So we can learn about them together. So I'm going to introduce a mudra in each episode. I'll still have guests and lots of primary content and all of that stuff. But let's see how long I stick with it. I'm pretty good at being disciplined, and I'm totally interested in the subject. So I'm going to make my declaration in each episode in 2025 of the Youthful Older Yogi. I will introduce a mudra. Because research shows that if you say it out loud, it keeps you more accountable. And I'm not really sure where I'm going to position it in the episodes. Maybe it'll just be a surprise. So the first mudra, mudra number 1 of 2025, is Anjali Mudra. So what is a mudra? A mudra is a sign or a seal. It's typically done with your hands, but it can also be done with your body. And mudra translates as a sign or a seal. Anjali is a salutation or a divine offering. So Anjali Mudra, your hands are placed together and your fingers are touching each other. They're closed and they're pointed upward. Okay. Most everyone has put their hands together in a prayer position, and that's Anjali Mudra. So your hands, it's considered your hands and palms are thought to be the ultimate expression, the expressive ends of your physical being. I mean, we build, we create, we fight, we hold, we love with our hands. Your hands are so expressive. So when we bring our hands together, like this, fingers pointing upwards, we're joining the right and left sides of the body, right in the center. So you're joining the energies flowing from both sides and establishing a state of balance from right and left. It also brings together the right and left hemispheres of your brain. And this mudra can feel very centering. You can incorporate this mudra at the beginning of a pose, at the end of a pose, the beginning of a sequence, the end of a sequence, or just when you want to stop and pause. So if you're a teacher, just try sharing Anjali Mudra with your classes. And I've really found that the majority of yoga practitioners, they enjoy learning and experiencing new aspects of the practice more than just the poses. Anjali Mudra. And in some of the traditions, you can put your thumbs at your heart center. That's for a friend. Someone that's more venerable, or a guru, or someone you admire or respected, the hands can go at the third eye center, at the forehead. And then if it's a god, it goes above your head, a god or someone you are worshiping. So that's a little bit about Anjali Mudra. What I found is also, I've been pressing together a little too firmly. So you just bring your fingertips together and there's just this little bit of space in between here. But you feel the balance between the fingertips, all 5 fingertips or 10 fingertips. And there's just a little bit of space and air in the center of the mudra. So have fun with Anjali Mudra, everyone. Another tool I've added, they're in my show notes. This is for 2025, and it's a place for you to send me an email or a voice message. I'd love to start engaging with my subscribers and my listeners and audience. So you can now shoot me a message. It's either an email or you can just click. It's called SpeakPipe. It's in the show notes on buzzsprout.com, Buzzsprout. And you can shoot me a voicemail without an app or anything like that. So please shoot me a message and you can comment on the episode or share your thoughts. Let me know what topics you might want me to speak about. And maybe you just want to be a guest, or maybe your thought or question will be highlighted on a future episode. biggest excitement for 2025 is I'll be leading a retreat in September. I've wanted to lead a retreat for many years, and it's finally coming to fruition. It's on Bald Head Island, North Carolina in September. And this is an exquisite subtropical island I've been vacationing at for over 15 years. And I'll be joined with food expert and wellness coach Terry Orr. There's going to be an upcoming episode with her and I, and we're going to share more details and tell you a little bit more about the retreat. So please stay tuned for that. And to stay in the know about the retreat and all my other cool yoga offerings for 2025, please subscribe to my newsletter at shareyogawithmj.com, shareyogawithmj.com, and you'll just be in the know. So that is my opening episode for 2025. Please stay happy and healthy, and thank you again so much for listening to the Youthful Older Yogi. And until next time, keep sharing yoga. Namaste. Thank you so much for listening. Now you can go to my show notes on YouTube or Buzzsprout and send me a voicemail or email. I'd love to hear what topics you'd like me to speak about, what your thoughts are on the episodes, and maybe I'll share your message on a future episode. Please subscribe to my website, shareyogawithmj.com, so you can receive my newsletters and be first to know about my retreats, workshops, courses, and freebies. If you navigate on social media, you can find me mostly on Facebook and a bit on Instagram at Mary Jane Waddell. That's Jane with a Y, Jayne. This podcast would not be possible without the help of my editor, Dan Jones from Cocoa Beach Productions. You can find Dan at cocoabeachweb.com. And of course, thanks to my generous guests who share their time, insights, and youthful wisdom. Remember, the Youthful Older Yogi podcast is presented solely for educational, inspirational, and entertainment purposes. It is not intended as a substitute for a physician or other qualified professionals. Okay, yogis, stay well, stay youthful, and keep sharing yoga.